is now 6:07. Call this meeting to order. Mr. Castellano, would you help us with the moment of silence? We'll pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Number 3, establishment of quorum.
René Rodríguez,
Here.
Ralph Duran,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cesar Nevares,
Here.
Victor Perez,
Here.
Mayor Elia Garcia is absent, and Ivan Colom Villalobos is absent.
Item number 4, public comments.
Our first speaker, Alejandro Garcia. Mr. Garcia, you have 3 minutes.
Good night. Good evening.
Good evening.
Tonight I come to you with comments about certain actions that Ms. Duran and Mayor Garcia have gone out of their way to make sure.
Point of order, Mayor. He's singling me out, and that is not against Ordinance 320. If you'd care to look at it.
Item
He
14.
he can refer to me as District 2 rep, but no names. It's Ordinance 320, Section 4, Paragraph E. For E, I believe.
No, there's nothing impermissible about using the elected official's name.
Okay.
Just personal attacks are not permitted.
Okay.
If the speaker has criticism of a elected official's conduct as opposed to his person or his personal views, if he has criticism of conduct, then I think he can use that.
Okay.
Go ahead and proceed,
Thank you.
sir.
Tonight I come to you with comments about the actions that they took about that will be later on discussed in item 14. We are in a Tamara country, a shadow policy and dictator tendencies, and I'm here to ask not to let this become the norm in the city of Socorro. Our citizens' voice should not be left by the west side, but must be taken into full consideration, and we should all be in the right side of history, knowing that tonight Socorro will take another step in helping our city move past greed. I urge council to vote for the adoption of Resolution 591 with an amendment of not firing the perpetrators, but asking for a recall election of the violation of crime. This has become unethical. Our concerned citizens of Socorro, I ask the mayor and District 2 representatives to resign. Okay, thank you. That's it, 'cause I can no longer do that. Thank you very much.
Sel Chagoya. Mr. Chagoya, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. So, watching, I guess, the videos last month was very interesting. Finding out that the mayor continues with her year-long or more investigation along with Mr. Ralph Duran. I had mentioned to you guys that this parking lot was going to create issues, and it has. It's being used by a car wash, and they're profiting, and I I could understand why it was easy for them to say that they could use it. But I mean, you're elected officials, you should be held to a higher standard as well. Instead of spending money into these investigations and going through all this mess, I feel that you all are cheating the city of Socorro by not conducting.
He's saying that we're cheating. That is a violation, according. He's calling me a cheater.
That's it, cheating.
Yeah, and used in that context, though, I mean, it's, if you're cheating the city of Socorro, I don't think that implies embezzlement or fudging. It's like me, cheating myself because I don't eat enough fruits and vegetables. Okay, I'm cheating myself. I should eat more fruits and vegetables, but it's kind of just a use of a phrase.
Okay.
So instead of investing in our infrastructure, instead of investing in the needs that we have in Socorro, which I have addressed plenty of times with my district rep, we're spending tax dollar money in investigations that we're in need of sidewalks, we're in need of lights. We have that new Hueco tanks that cost us $10,500 to change that name. I don't see why when there's a lot of need in Socorro, but I feel that for political reasons, you chose to not use common sense, and here we are. Here we are again, a year long, and this is just ridiculous. So I agree, you should resign, the both of you, because there's nothing good that's going to come out of all of this. So I hope that resolution that has been written, it gets adopted, because we don't need people like that representing the city of Socorro. Thank you.
And for the record, Mayor Elia Garcia arrived to the meeting at 6:11. Our next speaker is Miriam Cruz. No. Yes.
I just want to say a couple of things that I thought about while people were speaking. And because of some of the agenda items that are on the agenda today, I hope that we can learn and move forward as quickly as possible. Obviously, there's mistakes that have been made, but talking about it, even mentioning the name change of that street, I mean, at least to me, I'm already annoyed about it. Yes, it happened. Yes, it was not the best choice. And yes, all of City Council voted on it. But I don't like it, but yeah, ya se dijo. Come on, let's move forward. Let's talk about something positive, please.
Margarita Perez. Mrs. Perez, you have 3 minutes.
Yes. Well, my name's Margarita Perez. I'm with Christmas Trails for Toys. I was going to show you a video, but it's updating, and I don't think we're going to be able to see it. Just to thank you again for the support and help in providing the community with a big Christmas party for 300 children from here, from the SISD schools, for providing 50 turkey baskets to the needy families from here in Socorro. So, I wanted to show you a little bit of what was done this year, but maybe I can leave it with Esteban, and then, or yeah, I can show it to you at a later date. But I hope that I can, that you will continue with your support to this wonderful cause that we do. We did the turkey baskets at the community center at Rio Vista, and which was amazing. It came out amazing. The families loved it. And of course, this is not only done by me and my sister, but the whole community. members of your staff and members of different organizations here in Socorro. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Patricia Espinosa. Ms. Espinosa, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. This is Ms. Espinosa. And we have a couple of issues on Villa del Mar. I don't know if you're all aware, but the one major issue that has been in existence for a long time is that the street sign says Villa del Mar. However, on the deeds that we have, it says Villa del Mar Drive. So it has been causing an issue for a very long time. I have talked to the post office and I have talked to the city of El Paso regarding that. I don't know who takes care of such signs, so I'm bringing it to your attention here in the city of Socorro. The next item I'd like to present to you is the Lower Valley Water District. When they open their manholes, for some reason they're leaving them open. Right now we have 3 on Villa del Mar, 2 at the intersection of Dillinger and Villa del Mar, and the other one is in the middle of the street of Villa del Mar. Villa del Mar is a residential street. As far as I know, I've been a resident for, on that street for 40 years now, so I've been there for close to 40 years, since 1980. And the third item, which is getting to be a concern on that particular street, is that we're getting a lot of heavy trucks going through that street. And when I say heavy trucks, I'm talking semis, the 18-wheelers. We're getting the trucks that carrying the cotton from obviously the fields nearby. And I talked to somebody at City Planning about it, and they said that as long as they were not delivering on that street, they had no business going through that street, which happens to be a residential street. So I would really appreciate it if whoever is concerned, I have brought it up to the attention of our district representative, Yvonne Colombia Lobos, who is not here today, but she's very well of all these issues that have been going on that area. So I would really appreciate it if somebody would actually look at these more closely, and perhaps we can find some solution to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ruben Chavez?
I am not very well off of it, and said, "Come on, he can be, yeah, what the hell?"
Give Mr. Mendoza help.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, Council, Mayor, Council, just wanted me to express a few words for it. Mayor, Council, good evening. Mr. Chavez here has a property at 760 Horizon Boulevard. He's owned this property, ¿cuántos años tiene? Over 20 years. He has a building, a real nice building, very beautiful, okay? Structuralist, well, metal building. He has it paved with cement. He has 3 little, he rents out 3 little spaces, okay? And this last time, he was trying to rent it out to this man. This man came down here to get a permit. He's never had this problem before. Your city inspector told him that he had to come in with an inspector, not an inspector. He had to come in with an engineering plan of what he was going to do. Now, this is ridiculous, okay? It's plain ridiculous. The place is, you can get it off right now, off your phones. It is beautiful. All he wants is to continue renting his place. He's been renting them for years, and he's never had any problems with the city. This is the first time they asked him for an engineering plot. And I think, Mr. Nevares, you're our representative, you're his representative. We would love for you, as his city representative, to look into it.
Sure.
And our city manager. I think, between you all, and if you all have a chance to go down there, it's not very far from here, just go take a look, and you'll see that. The building's there, everything's there, it's real nice. Greatly appreciate it, thank you very much for your time.
Ralph Duran. Mr. Duran, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. It's kind of sad I have to come up here and talk this way, because at the last meeting, on an item that was about me, I'd asked to speak, and I was told, no, not by the chair, but by a council member. I mean, are we gonna let the past catch up to us again, where we have one council member who runs our city? There was things that were said that were not true, but I had no chance to say anything about them. I was shut down. If that's the way our city's running, too close? Okay, thank you. If that's the way our city's gonna be run, I mean, we need to look. Are we gonna revert back to where we were a few years ago? We were elected to be leaders, not followers. We need to look at the facts, but all the facts, not just the facts that one person is saying, or two people. We need to look at exactly what is going on and not make outrageous resolutions. I mean, if one resolution is good for one person, it should be good for all, not just one or two council members. We all should be held to the same standard. And no, I'm not going to resign. That is so ridiculous. There's no reason for it. That'll solve that. I mean, I'm not going to run for another office and resign. I'm here to stay. Thank you.
Mayor, those were all our speakers.
Mayor, before we start, can I say something?
In public comment?
Yeah.
Mr. Rodriguez?
I just want to state that for Mr. Chagoya, when you said a year, it's actually half a year, not a year.
Mr. Rodriguez, I think you can only speak about policies in response to public comment.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
You're stating facts.
Oh, okay. So the fact is, it's only a year of an investigation. That's it. And the other fact is that not all council voted for it. I wasn't here, and if I was here, I said it once, I'll say it again, I wouldn't vote for it. Those are the facts. That's it.
Mr. Duran?
Thank you.
A statement of fact, Mr. Rodriguez is one of the ones that brought it up originally. It is under his name, and all of us do take the time to come to meetings.
Item number 5, presentation by city manager regarding November 2019 monthly report.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am going to provide you some highlights from each department for the month of November. Our Municipal Courts Department collected $6,671, received 468 citations from Socorro PD, 16 citations from DPS, and 30 ordinance violations. Our HR Department celebrated the Employee of the Month, celebrated their birthdays and anniversaries on December 20th, our Employee Appreciation Luncheon. Our Employee of the Month was Myrna Workman for November. We had 3 employees out on intermittent FMLA, 1 from Planning and Zoning, 1 from Admin, and 1 from PD. There were 3 injuries in the month of November. There was no civil service meeting for the month of November due to no items. There was 1 separation for the month for Public Works, and there was 3 new hires for Public Works, Labor Luis Dominguez, Daniel Madrid, and Arturo Puente Solis. Our City Clerk Department prepared agenda and minutes for 2 regular meetings dated November 7th and November 21st, received 46 open records requests and responded to 32, and prepared 3 publications. Our Parks and Public Works Department installed rumble strips on Buford Road, milled and prepped for Lico and Tito Lane for paving, pothole repairs at the corner of Wynn and Socorro Road, Kakuta and Melendez Street, began the quotation process for rock walls on Bovi and Cielo del Rio community, assisted the Recreations Department for the Winter Festival, and continued to maintain and mow and groom all city parks and ponding areas. Our police department received 2,276 calls for the month of November. Socorro PD and staff donated a total of 20 turkeys to the Christmas Trails for Toys. PD also donated 7 turkeys to H.D. Haley Elementary to assist families in need. Officers attended Idea School luncheon for Thanksgiving to eat lunch with children that parents couldn't be there for them. 53 arrests were conducted in the month of November. Officers continued to train to keep them in compliance with our certification of TICLO requirements. Our planning and zoning department collected for the month of November $79,887, issued 403 permits, 14 registration, 2 applications, and 149 letters. Our recreations department attended the San Luisario Veterans Parade on November the 9th, assisted with the city softball game on November 2nd, had the senior citizens luncheon on November the 26th, our harvest luncheon November 27th, and there was an HLC meeting on November 14th with 4 cases. Kept up with all social media platforms and media inquiries. Our IT department completed phase 1 of the network wiring for the new modular for the police department, continue the migration and implementation for Office 365 for the city, and continue with the upgrades for computers at the Chayo, Podaca, and Rio Vista Community Center. They also troubleshooted all IT-related issues for all city departments. Our grants department received an award of $54,962 from the Paso del Norte Health Foundation, Ignite Initiative for the Youth and Culture. Also received an award for $56,144 from the Hogg Foundation for Mental Health for the Socorro Complete Count Committee Census for the 2020 Outreach Campaign. And we also received $756,780 for fiscal year 2020-2022 transportation alternative set aside funds for the Safe Routes to School for Passmore Road. Continued leadership towards the establishment of the City of Socorro Community Initiative nonprofit organization, and as always, it is a goal for the grants department to continue to meet with the funding needs and priorities of each department in order to enhance our capacity to serve the residents of Socorro. Our city auditor reviewed and reconciled the bank statements for the month of October, finalized changes to the purchasing manual and fixed asset management procedure manual pending approval to present to council at our next meeting, and reviewed the purchasing card transactions for the month of October 2019. This concludes the report. I don't know if you all have any questions.
Mr. Perez?
Yes, sir.
And I wrote you a note that, on the rumble strips, they're coming off.
I'm sorry?
The rumble strips,
Yes.
they're coming up, They're, in fact, one
Yes,
is,
we're actually looking into that, and we have ordered some more
Okay.
because the ones that were installed weren't enough. So we are working on
and then just when I pass by there, if you would consider staggering them instead of putting putting them like that, staggering them so that when the car passes, all tires will hit, the tires will all hit a rumble strip all this time, because, I mean, I tried it out. I could go through the middle of them and
nothing
happens. And so if you
Correct.
stagger them, the cars will hit one of them at least.
Yes, and it was the first installation of those rumble strips. So when we ordered them, we thought we were going to receive more. So once we installed them, we knew we needed to order more, and I know that that other order is pending.
Yeah, so if you would consider that
Yes,
when
just
staggering the.
Definitely. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to consent agenda, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran,
Yes.
Victor Perez,
Aye.
and Ivan Colombia Villalobos is absent.
Item number 12, discussion and action to approve the submission of a grant application to the Texas Counts Pooled Fund request for proposals for the City of Socorro's Complete Count Committee Census 2020 Outreach Campaign. There is no match requirement for this grant.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Alejandra Valadez, Grants Coordinator for the City of Socorro. We are submitting, with your approval, a grant application to the Texas Counts Pooled Fund request for proposal. They have approximately $2 million available for Texas community to assist them with their census outreach efforts. We have received a grant award from the Hogg Foundation. However, we are still in need of additional resources. As you can see in the backup budget, we are requesting funds for mobile census stations, for additional advertising, culturally responsive census videos and TV spots, digital marketing, educational materials, and funds for our Socorro Census Count-a-thon, which is an event that we are scheduled to implement on March 28th of 2020 to bring out the community, and part of that is providing them with gift baskets, food donations, in order to incentivize them to come out and fill out the census. There is no match requirement for this grant.
Better.
Do we have a motion?
I make the motion.
Seconded by Rene Rodriguez.
Aye.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
Yes.
Victor Perez.
Aye.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos is absent.
Item number 13, discussion and action to adopt Resolution 590, authorizing city manager to sign grant applications and acceptances on behalf of the mayor and council for the city in the interest of efficiency in the grant application process.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Good afternoon again. This is a resolution to streamline our application process. As you know, we bring to you many grant applications requesting your approval to submit them. The attached resolution would authorize city manager to sign grant applications in order to submit them, given some very specific guidelines. If no matching funds are required, then city manager would be authorized to sign. If matching funds are required and they're not already allocated in the department's budget for that fiscal year, then we would also come to you for approval. Also, if the application requirements require for council to approve the application, then we'll come to you also.
Awesome. Makes sense.
Rene Rodriguez.
Aye.
Cesar Nevares.
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
Yes.
Victor Perez.
Aye.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos is absent.
Item number 14, discussion and action to adopt Resolution 591 for Mayor Elia Garcia and City Representative Ralph Duran are prohibited from having direct communication with any city employees other than the city manager for any purpose whatsoever.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Mayor, we have several speakers on this item. No, okay. Our first speaker is Alejandro Garcia.
Good evening. Let's just remember that item 14 is one of a long lists of collaborations from District 2 and the mayor. This is not just something we can forget and push to the side like other items we're talking about or we want to forget about. And we need to make sure that our Socorro moves in the right direction and make sure that this doesn't happen again and again and again, because things are promised, things are said, but they're never kept. And this is a good way to keep our balanced checks. Thank you.
Sal Chagoya. Go ahead, sir.
On May 8, 2019, I requested a meeting with District 2 Rep, Mr. Duran. And on that day, it was kind of a surprise that I thought I was having a one-on-one meeting with him in regards to some issues. And apparently there was a lady there. I didn't know who she was, but her name is Ms. Granados. She was supposed to be taking notes. I was asked, so I'm not even sure if Ralph actually ran it through the city manager, if it was okay to use a city employee to be taking notes. But Mr. Duran did ask Ms. Granados on how many police officers. I interrupted that conversation, and I told Mr. Duran that why is he referring to Ms. Granados. Mr. Duran mentioned that she is a full-time staff and she knows what's going on. I told Mr. Duran, I am meeting with you as my district rep. Ms. Granados was only agreed to take notes. So here we go again. This happened May 8, and now we have a situation going on with, councilmen talking to staff. So has it been happening in the past? I have documentation where it did happen once. Thank you.
Mr. Duran?
Point of fact is, I did run it by the city manager. In fact, it was her suggestion that Ms. Granado sit in on the meeting.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Are there all those speakers?
No, we have more speakers.
Oh, no, I'll go after.
Miriam Cruz?
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. I find it interesting that, I mean, I understand why the mayor and Representative Duran are, you know, specifically being lined out for this resolution, but I wonder if we could add some language that would apply to all the city representatives, not because I believe that any of the other representatives would do such a thing, but just to be, I don't know, in an effort to be equal, in an effort to be, you know, across the board. Everyone should understand that, not necessarily that you shouldn't talk to the other employees, but that you shouldn't talk to employees about specific things as far as it being applied to the other representatives. I don't know what you think, but if it has to be said, then maybe we should include it here. If not, then maybe you could include it somewhere else so that it's clear for everyone what you can or should not be doing. Thanks.
Mr. Duran?
I know I was set up to speak, but I'm going to go ahead and talk from here. We hear the term due diligence a lot, but yet they've taken the word of 2 people, but there was 3 people at these meetings. Only 1 person was asked about it. I have never contacted either of those 2 people, but yet I'm being accused of it. I have not, I mean, I was there at the meeting, and I heard everything that was said. With one gentleman, he was wholeheartedly, he said that, yeah, he could do this, he could do that, and then he declined, which is fine. And the other lady was talking about things on her computer that she could use. They were all for it. Nothing was, it was done off of the city. It was not done on city time. It was not done in a, there was no pressure put on them. It was just a simple question. Do you know how to set up a Facebook account? That was it. There was no, oh, yeah, we need money from you. No, nothing like that was ever said. And then you're putting together this resolution and not even hearing the facts. You're only hearing one side. And I'm sure you only heard one person speak about it in executive. I think we need to back up, or if you want to do this, I will back it up 100% if it applies to every council member. And I think that, you know, singling people out because somebody may have a grudge is the wrong thing to do. They're using the city to get back at people, mainly myself and the mayor. I mean, it's no secret that some people on this council just don't like us. We have to be bigger than that. We were not elected to be liked. We were elected to lead. And whether there was a, you know, I just don't see how you can completely put, without even hearing the whole story, you're making this resolution. It's using the city for political gain. Let's face it. Let's just call it what it is: political gain. And yeah, there was. We met with him. The first one was, I believe he even reported it to the city manager, and then he set up the meeting. He set it up at Crave. I had nothing to do with that. I just went along to observe and make sure that it was all above board. So if you all want to make this resolution.
One little caution, and I'm processing and looking at stuff. Part of the reason it was discussed in executive session is because it's personnel matter, and I don't think we discussed public. We certainly haven't identified the
So, I mean, do we want to step back in time and become the people that we replaced? You have to ask yourself that question. You want to be fair? Let's hear the whole thing. Let's hear all three sides of the story. Instead of just, oh, well, you know what, so-and-so said it, so it's got to be true. I already know one, but I know 2 council members in here were elected to lead, not follow. And let's see if I mean, this needs to be, if you want to table it, or if you want to make it for everybody, I'd back that 100%. That's all I have to say.
Mr. Rodriguez?
You know, it's funny. This resolution, that if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But the resolution is made because we need to understand that there is a policy in place that says this. Okay? I don't know how many times I have to stress this out. It is in a policy already. And if you don't obey that policy, we have to take it and make sure that we don't step the line. And there's been a pattern of consistency that this continues to go on. How many times do I have to address my council and tell you all the time? How many emails haven't we gotten in the past? Stop talking to staff. How many times? Because I'm not the only one that's tagged on that. And I know it ain't me. It's already a policy. There's no reason why none of us have to. We have to single them out because that's what they're doing and they're not abiding by it. It's already there. We have to come out and make sure that our employees know that we have their backs. This is about our employees feeling harassed. This is about our employees feeling not safe to come to work. That is what this is about. It's the safety of our employees so that they can come to work every single day and not feel that they work in a hostile environment. That's what this is about. It's not about singling anybody out because it's already a policy. I will stress that out again. It's already written. So we're the last line of defense. That's what people need to understand. We are the last line of defense for our employees, for our administration, and for our residents. And if we don't do our jobs, then what are we here for? You know, if we want to put it out in public, could we, Jim, this is a question for you. Could we publish those letters without putting the names? Because that says it all.
I need to review the substance of the letters.
They would provide.
And really, there's 2 issues. Number one, I'm not sure you could redact them sufficiently so that the identities were not known.
It'd be hard.
And then number 2, the word was crafted as, I think, my understanding, maybe wrong about the history, my understanding is the employees were instructed to create a little memo to write it down after they made an HR complaint, what is effectively an HR complaint that went to the city manager. And so that probably needs to remain confidential, unless, I mean, the one thing that's an exception under the Open Records Act is if the employee says, no, I want it to be public. Yeah, if the employee said that, then that's an easy call. But short of their agreement to make it public, I need to review that specifically, even the text of each one.
Because you know what, it's easy to say, oh, well, I got my side of the story. Well, we're only going to hear one side or the other. You know, one of the things is that we need to address this issue, and that's why we're here for. Because I will continue to say the same thing. You know, I am not calling anybody of our staff in their personal cell phones and, hey, I need you to do this and I need you to do that. You know, those are the things. Those are boundaries that which we should not be crossing. And that's why we're here. That's why this is a resolution. Because there's already a policy in place and they don't abide by it. Do you understand that? There's already a policy in place and they don't abide by it. That's why we need a resolution so that they can understand. It's not about singling out anybody. I will say this to all of my colleagues up here. The day I do something like this, bring it up. Bring it up. It's easy to say chismes behind everybody's back. But you know what? Where's the proof? That's all I got to say.
Mr. Duran?
I'm not going to scream and holler and throw my pens for, you know, like, oh, sorry, I just did. You know, read the policy. It does. It says that the employees, on their own time, can do whatever they want. Now we were trying to tell them, you can't, if I see them at a bar, I can't go buy them a drink or have them buy me a drink. That's what we're saying now. I'll have to call Ms. Rodarte and invite her too. I mean, this is crazy. But if we want to go this route, let's do it. But for everybody, across the board, not just, and you know, screaming and hollering doesn't do any good. I mean, it just, there's decorum. I'm not going to sit here and scream and holler. What I'm going to say is, I think everybody needs to be heard on this item because it is putting a great burden. And if I, you know, I was there. I know what happened. I know exactly what was said. And I would be happy to share it. But I think we need to back up on this, and we need to at least hear both sides of the story before we make a vote.
Mayor?
Mr. Perez?
In terms of this issue, God willing, when all is said and done, I will have served 10 years on council. And it is not I will have served 10 years on council, not because I follow, but because I do lead. And in terms of this situation, I believe that we have to be at the forefront of making sure that we protect our employees. This is not an easy situation by any means, but unfortunately, the factors and the instances are enough to where we're at this point that it has to be done this way. Do I like it? No. Do I like the fact that the employees had to resolve to making a complaint of some sort to be able to make sure that this doesn't happen again? I operate by this. If someone feels it, that is their perspective, that is their reality. And if they feel that they are in any way, shape, or form feeling threatened or that there will be reprisals for not participating in in anything, then it's unfair to them, because that's not the situation that we want to operate under. Do I want for this to happen? And if it passes, it passes. Like Mr. Rodriguez says, if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I think that in any case, I think that it should be a very strong message to whomever is here that we should operate at a higher standard in terms of how we deal with the employees. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, I can only control myself. And unfortunately, the situation at this point, because of the city leaders that we are, we need to create a structure of some sort so that this doesn't happen again. And it's unfortunate that it's with two individuals that on the personal side I like very much, but by the same token I need to separate that with the functions of the office. And that's where I hope that in terms of Mr. Duran, you were referring to two people on council that you hope would lead and not follow. Well, if it's me, I lead, and I have always led. Not boisterously, but I can tell you that when I need to tell you something, I'll tell you. And this is one of those situations.
And I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez?
You know, I got emotional, and I apologize for that. But there is a policy, and I want people to understand. Our employees can do whatever they want after hours. That is so right. But what he fails to tell you is that in the policy, it states that it doesn't matter, because the policy states that you cannot go out to with any employee for purposes of Mr. Olarte, correct me if I'm wrong, but there in the policy it states that we cannot tell for political anything that has to do with politics with our employees, in or out of our time. Yes, no? There you have it. It's in our policy one more time. Okay? So, one more time. Councilman Duran just told you half of a truth. Yes, they can do whatever, but it's in our policy that you cannot if it has to do with politics. Okay?
Mr. Duran?
Also, what is not being told is I never contacted anybody, either of the two people. I never asked them for anything. I was there merely in support. I listened to everything, and I'm being, targeted, because we all know some people don't like me. So what? I didn't run to be liked. I ran to do the best job that I could. Okay, this was totally after hours. And like I said, you can ask, I don't know if they said that I called them, which would not be true. I don't know if in those complaints they said that I pressured anybody. I never pressured anybody. We were talking about family and friends. We were talking about everything under the sun. So when I hear this, it's like, whoa, how did it get weaponized? How did it go from a simple meeting at Crave to an HR problem? There was never any pressure put on anybody. Never. And when I see that I'm going to not be able to, because I was there, that's guilt by association. We need to review this or make it for everybody. Now, I'd vote in a heartbeat if this was for everybody. We've had other council members that have gone with staff, talked to staff, and they got a slap on the wrist. And so, it was like, sorry, don't do it again. So if we're going to pass this, let's pass it for everybody.
Mr. Nevares?
Let's move on and stop wasting time. Let's take a vote.
The last thing that I wanted to mention is that that's fine if this resolution is to be passed, but it's a little limiting on freedom of speech, and it's a little illogical to go ahead and execute, because I do run into employees at the store occasionally, and so if I wave, is that considered a communication? It's going to be a little illogical to hide from them, run the other way, or call Mr. Olarte whenever I do run into these employees, because just 2 days ago or so, I did run into an employee at the Peter Piper, for example, and I said, hi, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Is that going to be a violation? Because in here, it's very general, and I just think that it should be clarified as to what communication can be had, or if it's going to limit across the board.
Rene Rodriguez?
Aye.
Cesar Nevares?
Yes.
Ralph Duran?
No.
Victor Perez?
I think, just very quickly, and regarding the freedom of speech, I think that, again, we know better, and we know the limitations there. And so if it quacks like a duck and it walks like a duck, it's a duck. And so with that, I'll say yes.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos is absent.
Item number 15, Discussion and action to adopt Resolution 592 for the appointment of Walter Miller to serve as our appointee to the El Paso Central Appraisal District Board of Directors for the 2020-2021 term.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
No, go after the speaker.
Miriam Cruz.
Well, you went first, maybe you'd answer my questions, but I'll go ahead and ask my questions. According to the backup, Mr. Miller was nominated by the town of Horizon City. I'm confused as to why we're nominating him now. I understand that maybe Mr. Medina is not eligible, as according to what the backup says. But I'm confused as to why we're nominating someone that that Horizon nominated. That's one. Two, I want to know if Mr. Miller lives in Socorro. Just curious. And why do I want to know that? Well, because, you know, we have different needs here in Socorro, and I want to make sure that it's someone that lives here and that has our interests, needs. If he does live here, great. Let's see what other questions I had. Oops. Oh, I lost it. Like I said, had you gone first and given some of this information in the backup, that would have been helpful, but thank you.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes, to answer your question is all of the municipalities in the county can appoint a representative. The thing is that I called about 6-7 months ago, and I had talked to the director back then. She told me that once it was close enough, she was going to send emails, and then we could appoint somebody for the city. The thing that I addressed with her was that we didn't have any representation down here in the lower valley, which is everything in the lower of downtown, which is I-10. When this was brought up, they sent emails. I didn't get to see it, and Ms. Rodarte put Mr. Medina because not only is he qualified, because he understands what it is for planning. So she took it in the city's best interest, not knowing, and we weren't told that it's only for elected officials. That's why when we appointed Mr. Medina, the next day was the cutoff date, and then we couldn't reappoint anybody after that. So that's why he was ineligible. Now there's only 2 people that are eligible that the Socorro Independent School District put, Paul Garcia, and Horizon put Walter Miller, the alderman. So it is our best interest to put somebody that has a municipality's best interest, and that would be Walter Miller. That's why I chose to put this agenda item so that we can put somebody that understands what it is to have in a municipality instead of a school district, because it's the need of our residents. So it is in Socorro's best interest to appoint Walter Miller.
Mr.
from
Perez?
the city of Horizon, because those were the only 2 options we had to vote.
Okay.
And therefore, if you want to say where they live, well, Walter Miller obviously lives in Horizon, and Mr. Paul Garcia, lives north of Montana. So that's a far stretch from where at least Walter Miller's closer to us.
So we're really not nominating, we're just confirming his nomination.
No, we're actually, we have to vote for them, for one of those.
Okay.
Because as of before we took that vote, it's 1 and 1.
So then we're saying that our vote as a city will go to Mr. Miller?
We'll go to, yes, to Mr. Miller, Walter Miller.
The nomination.
Yes,
It's
the
for the
nomination.
nomination, yeah.
Yeah, for the nomination. Because he's in our best interest. It's in our best interest.
It's a shame that Mr. Medina couldn't participate.
Yeah, I know. It would have been a good fit. But we did not know that it was only for elected officials. So it cannot be a city manager or a staff member or it had to be an elected
It could
official.
be a city manager. It states in the letters and the emails. It could be a city manager or an elected official.
Really?
Mhm.
I didn't see that. Because I talked to her right after we took the vote, and she said that it was just for elected officials.
No, a city manager or elected officials.
Okay.
Well, then why can't we?
We-
Because
it's
we already
too
passed the
late.
deadline.
The deadline was the next day.
Mm.
That's why.
Mr. Duran?
So we only have to choose between the three, correct? Two?
Two.
Just those two.
Mhm.
Okay.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Item number 16, discussion and action regarding elected official communicating directly with city employees.
Mayor.
Mr. Rodriguez?
This is vague. The reason why it was vague because when we were in executive discussing the item prior for the resolution in executive is that some comments were made. And one of those comments, you know, we need to bring to light because it shows the continuation. So So I want to take a vote, see if we can take that comment out and put it here in public.
Yeah, actually, I think it depends on what it is. But let me say it this way.
Yeah.
Mayor, my suggestion, I don't mean to make this overly complicated. One of the reasons we went to executive session on that item was because was community to consult your attorneys. Because it was, and there's another one, because it was a personnel matter, but it was to consult with your attorneys. Okay, not every single syllable that's spoken in executive session is necessarily privileged. But there's still a general principle that whatever is discussed in executive session, you shouldn't repeat outside of executive session unless council as a whole votes to waive whatever privilege may exist, and it's not, there's no other requirement like it's a personnel matter. All of which is a long way of saying, if we're gonna talk about disclosing publicly some of the statements that were made in executive session, that's probably something we should at least disclose in executive session. Discuss in executive
Right.
session.
So
first,
that's
you
what I
can
wanna
tell
do.
me what they are, and I can tell you, yeah, you can do it or you can't.
Okay, so can I take this into executive?
You don't have to, no, if you can take that to executive session for the purpose of consulting with your attorney.
Yes.
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 Yeah, I think you can.
Mr. Perez?
I just think that we need to be very careful.
No, and that's why I want to
about
ask.
Saying anything that will compromise anyone.
Exactly.
and-
And that's why I want to ask Jim.
And I would operate that it's more than likely we shouldn't. And just to Mr. Martinez's point, that we understand that things should not be discussed beyond executive session as whomever is present at that time, at that meeting, at that portion of the meeting. That's just me. But I mean, if you want to proceed and ask Mr. Martinez, that's
No. We're going to go into executive.
Okay.
And then I'm going to ask him that question.
Okay.
And then if it's okay, then we come in and we ask it. And if we agree, then all I'm saying is, can we, yes or no? We already know what the question.
Okay.
If you guys don't want to, it's no. It's just that simple.
Okay, I thinking off the cuff here, I think you can do that.
Well, we just ask you in executive what the comment was.
I know you can do that. The difficulty just today because of math is, don't forget we were in executive session at that time, and the council excluded from executive session Mr. Grant and the mayor. If you want to go into executive session to discuss something that was, discuss the privileged or non-privileged nature of anything that
We
was
lose
discussed
quorum.
in that executive session, you probably need to again exclude Representative Grant and the mayor. The problem is if you do it today, then you don't have a quorum.
Yeah, we lose
Then
quorum.
I'll postpone it for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll postpone it.
Do we have a second?
So I'll amend I'll delete my motion and postpone it for the next meeting.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Second.
Can we have a speaker for this item? Sel Chagoya?
So referring back to my meeting, you talk about leadership, Mr. Duran. 13 items were brought to your attention and only you resolved 5. The rest were resolved by Mr. Rodriguez. So I'm not sure what type of leadership you're talking about.
Mr. Shawoya, you can only speak on items directly to number 16.
So then, I hope that those employees are still around and they're not feeling frightened that, you know, their positions are in jeopardy because they had to come out and bring this to light. We already had an incident that occurred. You know, we had a chief that resigned and we had a police officer that resigned. So, I mean, this policy should be adopted in order for future instances, because we already have one scenario. This is the second scenario, and I just hope that employees don't feel threatened because they're being approached by elected officials.
Miriam Cruz? No. Rene Rodriguez?
Aye.
Cesar Nevares?
Yes.
Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
Aye.
And Ivan Colombia Lobos is absent.
Item number 17, discussion and action regarding use of electronic traffic signs in connection with election and polling places.
Make a motion to approve.
Second for discussion.
Mr. Rodriguez?
This has to do back when our mayor and our District 2 representative, Ralph Duran, were running. There was an issue that was brought up to me. The only reason why I brought this up is because it's already an election year. Okay? We're gonna go into elections, and this is a state violation. And what happened at this instance is that we called the constables because it's against the law. It's a Class E misdemeanor. Nevertheless, it's against the law. And yet there's no teeth. And if there's been proof of time and time again that that's how you start your election, that's how you start your political career, and yet you don't abide by the rules. So this is not just for them. This is straight up just to say nobody's going to do it. But we as a city have to put teeth into this so that nobody in the upcoming elections will use this and do this for their political aspirations, because it's against the law, okay? The backup says it. It already states the codes in which you can look at it. I put it there and I color-coded it for all of you so that you guys can understand that it's, I'm raising my voice again, but so you guys can know that it's state statute. You're not supposed to do it. It's just that simple, okay? It's just that simple, okay? So, this is the evidence. You can't use those. State says that this should only be used for commercial purposes as to road work, stuff of that nature, not for political signage, okay? So, here are the statutes, okay? So that people can be aware that I'm not just saying it. It's just because we're in a election year and we need to put some teeth, and the thing should be is that we should fine anybody who uses these moving forward $500, and that will also include any additional cost for the towing of these signs and storages.
Mr. Duran?
Yeah, it does say on public right-of-way, not on private property. Now we're going to tell people what they can do on their own property. That, I'm not seeing anywhere in here besides state law always trumps local law. you try to do something that's higher than the state statute, and it's gonna get shot down. But he highlighted only the sign. He did not say on public right of way. These were on people's property that permission was gotten. So, if you, once again, yeah, we used them effectively. We brought out the vote. We had more people voting than we've had in a long time. So, you look at this and it's, I mean, right there it says, on public right of way. Yeah, if they're on the public right of way, sure, tow them. That's not a problem. But if they're on private property, we cannot infringe on people's right.
Public.
Private. That's not on a right of way.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And they all had the disclaimers that were required by law. So, I mean, if we want to start infringing on people's rights, then I'm not in favor of infringing on anybody's right to declare who they want, who they're supporting in a campaign. We put up political signs everywhere. We always ask permission. I've asked permission for every sign I've ever put on private property. Never has it been put on public right of way. There was one instance where the company misplaced one where I'd put a marker. It was a simple, they moved it as soon as it was brought to the attention of the constables, which called me, and we moved it back onto private property.
Mayor, we have a speaker for this item, Sal Chagoya.
So by looking at the pictures, I reviewed them and I'm familiar with that location because I live in that district. To me, it does look like the right of way. So we need to be careful because even it's common sense, if you put a sign, they're gonna look and they could cause an accident. So I'm glad that nobody got in an accident because that would have been on your time. That would have been on your hands. I also want to add that we need to be careful with the city as well too, because the city does the same thing. When they put displays about the fireworks and stuff like that they're going to have picnics, that diverts the driver to look and read at the sign of what's going on. And I think that whether it's political or whether it's an event, they should not be used, because anything that is not common and something that is put out of the blue, it does attract the driver to steer to the right and it could cause an accident. So in this case, I believe that that type of signage should not be, whether it's private or whether it's right away, because if there's a car accident, then whether it's the city that's gonna be responsible or for that elected official that's running for office.
Rene Rodriguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
No.
Victor Perez.
Just, let me just read it one more time for clarification from mine. Okay, but this, so what is the motion? Because it just says discuss an action regarding the use of electronic traffic signs.
Yeah, these you
So-
can't
so-
use. The state says no. These. And that's what we're banning.
Is,
The motion was to approve.
see, that's why,
To approve, and I said, with the $500 fine,
No, that's not the motion. You just said approve.
okay, then I'll just restate that you cannot use these signs, these specific signs. And that if whoever does it gets a $500 fine and the expenses that are incurred by the towing of these signs. And they should not be on public or private right away, because these signs are just for work, for construction.
Mr. Martinez?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. My suggestion would be if
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Mr. Duran?
Now, is that going to be for private or public land?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think the motion specified. I can tell you, that's one step down
Yeah.
an interesting path. There's a lot of signs that are on private, you're right, Mr. Duran, the statute, the state statute says on public right of way. I get that. But I don't think that means the city, I think the city has power to regulate signage on private property.
Mhm.
I mean, but Mike's not here, or Joe's not here. You know, signage on construction sites. I mean, the city mandates certain signage and prohibits certain other signage. If you, cities have that power. If you go up and down Mesa, what the speaker said is correct. Even if it's on private property, a sign intended to attract attention can affect public safety because it affects drivers. If you go up and down Mesa, there's probably a couple hundred billboards, right?
That's exactly what I was
The
gonna ask.
vast majority of those are on private property.
Right.
And the city of El Paso is definitely under the impression that it has extensive authority to regulate how big and how bright and what direction they point and all that. So my point is, I think Socorro has you certainly have the right to regulate the signage on, even if it's on private property. And then it's just a question of what is it that you're trying to regulate? Prohibit all use of any signage, of this particular kind of signage?
This particular kind. Because everybody and their grandmas know that every time they see this, it's got to do something with construction. Just this type of sign.
My concern, well, that's why I just wanted to get some clarification. Are we going to equate this type of signage, the blinking signs, with billboards?
Yeah.
No, that's why I said, that's the only reason why I said these. I mean, you can put the color ones and stuff like that. That's all fine, but these.
See, but can we make the law stricter than what the state required?
Let me answer your question, but it brings up two other issues. The answer to your question is, can you make it stricter? Yes, I believe you can. The way I read that law doesn't set a limit. It sort of sets a floor.
Mhm.
And says that count cities if you want to be more. The implication is if the cities wish to be more restrictive, I believe you can.
Mhm.
There is a body of law that addresses the limits on municipal regulation of signage. There are, for lack of a better word, billboard lawsuits that come up from time to time. The city of El Paso has been through a couple of those in the last decade. And then I asked you a question earlier. Do you need to also regulate billboards? Not necessarily. I mean, if the motion is draft an ordinance that controls these traffic signs, you can limit it to that. I would suggest you probably want to make sure it's at least consistent with any other ordinances you have regulating billboards and other type of advertising. And that I'm comfortable telling you, if you're going to ask us to draft an ordinance regulating billboards, I probably need to tell you to disclose to council. At the moment, I represent Clear Channel on an unrelated matter. So if you're going to ask us,
And they don't have any billboards.
yeah, I would hand that off to somebody who doesn't represent Clear Channel. I'm happy to do that, but I don't want to advise you about that particular issue.
Yeah, but we're not talking about those. I mean, if they want, or Mr. Nevares or Mr. Ralph Duran wants to put his face on it and say, vote for me on a billboard, that's great. This is the issue.
Yeah, and
These
I go back to
types.
what I said to Mr. Pettit. Yeah, we can certainly draft an ordinance that's limited to these kinds of signs. Just
And that's it.
need to
That's
make sure
all.
it's consistent with any other ordinances
Mhm.
we have controlling signage generally, including billboards.
Yeah, that's it, just these. No other ones. I don't care if you slap, a sticker back of a truck or an 18-wheeler, that's not the issue. The issue is these are for construction.
Mr. Duran?
So the city can't use them anymore either, is that what I'm hearing?
After the ordinance goes into effect, that seems like it's going to be the route it's going to go.
Jim?
Yeah, I think it depends on how the ordinance is drafted. My understanding is, the way I don't know that there's been a motion. What I gathered from council statements was that it was a motion or a proposed motion to instruct staff to draft an ordinance that prohibits use of this species of sign for
So the city could not
Political.
use them, excuse me.
Political.
So the city could not use them for,
Nor events.
Events
only
or
road
anything like that.
closures or
Yeah.
detours.
It depends, I mean, I think you have a choice there. I think the council has a choice. You could ban it for all purposes other than construction. I wouldn't single out political uses, because then you're
freedom of
it's
speech.
more vulnerable to a First Amendment attack. And I think it is better to say that these are the uses for which it's authorized and there are none others. Yeah. I can think of other ways to phrase it. Construction, public events, public gatherings, or maybe not construction, but anything that affects traffic flow and pedestrian traffic, like a parade. I mean, if you wanted to mark the boundaries of a parade, you want to use, hey, parades on Rio Vista, don't go there, stay away.
Also, when we had the amnesty for the warrants, we used to use those to notify.
And for the 4th
So
of July.
that's
for
why
for everything.
I understand the purpose. I know what we're trying to do here, but I'm thinking that we're going to tie our hands somehow. And if we can look, and quite honestly, I don't like them, but I have no problem them people using them. If it's not on the, where I have a problem is on the public right of way. That's where I do have a problem. But I'm not so sure that we're able to limit all the uses. So if we can maybe look at the feasibility first, by staff to see, and if we have if there are any comparable ordinances regarding those kinds of signs, and then bring it back to us. And then once we have that precedent, we can have a better directions how we want to go.
Direct staff to do it and look at it.
Well, I mean, that's fine. We can direct staff, but because it ultimately has to come back to us anyway for approval.
Yeah, it would have to come back.
So we can direct staff to look into creating ordinances and ordinances based on existing ordinances of comparable cities.
Yeah, we'll do that, and then let them just hash it out. We'll let staff then.
So then.
So I'll amend my motion so that we'll let staff take care of that.
To direct staff to
Yes.
investigate that and come back with its proposal.
With a proposal.
I'll second that, but we should retake the vote, no?
Well, we didn't take a vote.
Yes, we did.
Mhm.
See, I stopped the conversation.
Okay, then, okay.
René Rodríguez,
Aye.
Cesar Nevares,
Yes.
Ralph Duran.
Yes.
Victor Pérez.
Aye.
And Ivan Colom Villalobos is absent.
Item number 18, discussion and action on charter amendments with an emphasis on Articles 1 and 2, Sections 1.01 through Section 2.06.
So you all did all the charters already? the amendments?
Yes, so, good evening, Mayor and Council. Actually, I started retyping the charter, so I only gave you 2 sections to review. I also sent the 2 sections to the attorney where he's working a little bit more on the annexation part of it, just because the rules change every legislation that we have.
Yes.
So we want to word it to the point where, go to
It
section
eliminates what the
of
state
the,
approved.
because then we're gonna be wanting to make amendments to this charter every time that the legislation, every
Right.
2 years. So, that's what they're working on. I know that Mr. Perez had asked the question on section 2.02, what does this phrase mean? What fee? And it says, and the right to take the fee in land so condemned, and, right? And we referred that to Mr. Martinez?
Yes, ma'am. Is it Mr. Bettis today?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I can, Mayor and Council and Mr. Bettis, I can tell you, it's the archaic, legalese way of expressing a particular kind of interest in property.
Okay.
If you own a square foot of dirt, or a square mile of dirt or whatever, a section of dirt, land, there are different ways, there are different property interests that into which you could divide it up.
Okay.
One common example is, I could say, I'm gonna keep the life estate, I'm gonna live on here, I have a life estate in this land,
And that goes back, that's kind of the same verbiage on liens, right? Yeah.
Could,
Yeah.
put it simple terms?
But no, if we have to, I mean, if that's the standard for the wording,
Yeah, I was gonna say, the problem with moving it to modern English is there's an established body of law that addresses what is and what isn't the fee and how it's controlled and who can and cannot convey the fee or encumber the fee. So just because of that, my suggestion would be
Just leave it-
it's a term of
okay.
art, and you need to preserve the use of that term because you wanna access all the cases over a couple hundred years of history that use it and interpret that term because it makes it more reliable.
because they do have legal implications.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
And then we also had District 4 submit documentation on these sections. Her items are a little more, she's changing the verbiage of several sections. I would just hate to discuss that and her not be here to see what she wants, because that would be rewriting a lot of the verbiage that's already in there. Okay. Yes.
Mayor, may I offer one thing? On sections 2.03, 2.04, 2.05, and 2.06, as short as they are, they still probably say too much and they're too specific. That generally deals with annexation. I spoke with the city manager earlier today. This is a governing document, right? It's like our charter, it's our corporate charter, or it's our version of the Constitution. The U.S. Constitution has lived on with only a couple of dozen amendments for 240 years now. So you want one that is going to last a long time. There's too many specifics in this. It refers to Chapter 43 of the Texas Local Government Code. Well, what if the legislature meets in 2021 and decides it's Chapter 56? And we're going to abolish the local government code, and we're just going to make it a subpart of the government code. It's too specific. So my point is, I think 2.3 to 2.06, generally all you need is a general statement of authority. We're the city. We reserve the right to establish boundaries and annex and de-annex in accordance with law. I think that's all you need, and that's my intent is to do that. It's difficult to prove a negative, so I'm not 100% sure that there is not some requirement out there to have more specifics in your charter. I've looked, I'm not done looking, and I'll continue to look, and once I get to a point where I'm comfortable with it, that there's no such requirement, I think you just leave it to the general.
I think I can tell you that it's just the druthers of past charter commissions, where there were a lot of people trying to regulate, and because for whatever reason, and I was part of some of those, at least one of those commissions. No, I can tell you that it needs to be more general.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
more general because it gives you more flexibility. If you have a charter that just
Yeah.
says the city has the right to annex in accordance with state law, then whatever the state law is and however much it changes in the next 50, 100, 200 years, you don't need to change the charter. You have the right to annex in accordance with state law.
Because those charter commissions were also elected members, and so that's why they wanted to make sure that that the city was controlled as much as possible. That's my perspective, my opinion. But anyway, yeah, some of this is very limiting. Oh, my 2 cents.
Mayor.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Jim, this is a question, I don't even know if you're gonna be able to answer it, but in the charter, you know how every legislature meets so often periodically? When the laws change, we're gonna have to wait to touch the charter. So is there any way that instead of us going back and bringing it to the people and stuff for things that the state changed in our charter, do we have to wait?
Have to wait.
To change them? Because that's one of the things is that,
The answer, the short answer is yes. You do have to wait.
okay,
But I'm not sure you have to change it. Technically, I don't think you have to change it. State law trumps the
yes,
charter, period. And so even if this said, we'll only have city council meetings on the second and fourth Thursdays, and if the state passed a statute that said, hey, there's no municipal governing body meetings on Thursday, well, then you'd have to change it. It doesn't matter what the charter says. So you don't have to change it, but I think it's generally a better idea there's nothing in there that could be contradicted tomorrow simply because the legislature changes a particular law.
Okay.
And when you say, well, do it in accordance with state law, you're sort of recognizing the reality is, like they did in 2017, the legislature has the ability to change annexation law substantially.
Okay.
Mr. Arte?
I also wanted to add that as we're moving forward, I guess we won't make a motion today just because Ms. Yvonne's not here, but if you all have an opportunity to review the document that she sent, because I would like a motion to tell me what you want me to incorporate before we move on to the other sections. That way we're done with section 1, you've already voted on it, and section 2 that I have here,
Okay.
before we move to section 3, to article 3.
Okay, so.
Because I think that we move on, but then no direction is given. It's just, you throw an idea, someone else throws an idea, but no, we're not getting like a clear direction of what changes you want us to
So
make.
our homework is?
To read what Ms. Colon gave us,
Okay.
because it is changing some of the verbiage, and then next time we ask her, we have questions, and then you can say, yes, we want to vote on her changes and
Oh,
add
okay.
them to the
I get you.
charter, and then review what is attached to your backup right now, and then just, if you want to make any changes, that you let me know at the next meeting. And then moving forward, I'm only going to do small sections. That way we only focus on the small sections, and I'll send you that through the backup so you're prepared for the meeting to let me know what sections you want to change.
We could pick up like a hard copy of those changes. I know that you sent them, but I mean, so that we could mark them up.
I can email it to you, and we can make a copy for you.
Because to me, I'd rather.
You're more about, yes.
Mr.
And
Ram?
only because we're retyping it as I go, so I'm just doing small sections.
No, I'm sorry, very quickly, because in my experience, when you're working online, which is I get the technology, but the thing is that if that way that you can see exactly where the changes are made, and that way you keep a hard file, a hard copy of.
Correct, and what I want to do is when I come back, the changes are going to be in red. That way we know exactly what we're adding or what we're deleting. And in red, and that way we're kind of tracking our changes. But they're already been approved, so we can move forward
right.
and then have a final copy at the end. And then we'll do a final review once the workshop is done.
When is our deadline? When do we have to have all this ready to be?
Nobody's asking me for like 6 months. My memory is it's the end of July, beginning of August.
Okay.
That's the deadline to pass the ordinance calling the election. And don't forget, by then, and I'll get you the more specific date. I have a memo on it in one of my sub files here. But by then, once you pass the ordinance, you need to have the ballot language. I mean, it's a very specific ordinance, so a lot of work needs to be done before then.
So a month before, would you say, hey, we should have it a month before so that we could be okay and draft everything?
So I'll be pushing, like I already started retyping it, so that's why I'm adding, I didn't add all the sections that were added, I'm only adding them when we're talking about those sections. So for Article 1 and Article 2, those are the only two things that we had from Mr. Perez and from Ms. Colon Villalobos. I know Mr. Duran has given me information, but I'll only address them in your sections. When we come to those sections or articles, then I'll let council know what exactly you wanted to change, and then we can discuss it at that point.
Okay.
I know we have a speaker for this item.
We don't have a motion.
Okay.
So we need a motion.
So, yeah, we'll postpone for the next meeting.
Because we're waiting on Ms. Colombianos before we can move on.
Second.
Yes, and that's why we're gonna postpone it.
Second.
Ms. Cruz?
Thank you, Ms. Navarro. I want to commend Mr. Martinez for summarizing what probably one class in law school took, a whole semester for you guys. Anyway, this might be redundant, but there are parts of the section that I'm sure I know they were done in the past, and I know it was very sloppy, and I'm pretty sure Mr. Martinez will do a great job in making sure that everything's consistent, but I want to point it out. So for example, throughout the sections that were just mentioned, the code is sometimes talked about as the local government code, and then sometimes it's talked as the Texas local government code, and then sometimes it just says chapter 43. I hope that it'll be consistent throughout the entire document. The entire document, really, that's what it should be. And I hope that it includes Texas, because there's some parts that say local government or local laws. I think it should actually specify Texas, but that's just me. And then the other thing, I did look at what Ms. Colombia Lobos, I don't know who had proposed it, but I looked at it, and I'm actually not in agreement with the preamble. It says that any reference to him or his or any other male gender-specific pronouns are to be understood to be interchangeable with she or her, and that somehow that is the intent to be more inclusive, as recognizing both men and women. I don't see how that is inclusive, but also I don't think there's that many times that he or she are used throughout the charter, so I hope that we can actually just put S/HE if that needs to be done. Thanks.
And that's a section that she wants to add. So you don't have to vote whether yes or no.
Rene Rodriguez?
Hold on. This one right here, right? Jim, do we have to?
The motion is to postpone for today.
No, I know.
You have to.
But when you do that, just because when I read it as part of.
No, those are the changes that she's,
Yes, I know.
Proposing.
but she's not here to explain to us what she was trying to explain.
All right, so then, but I guess they don't have to be, I mean, I apologize. I didn't realize that they have been attached. So then we can take this
Correct.
and dissect it.
So the homework is to review this.
Okay.
And then come back and say what you wanna add or what you don't wanna add based on the recommendation.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
And see if you have any recommendations on the articles that are attached.
Rene Rodriguez?
Hi.
Cesar Nevares?
Yes.
Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
Yes.
And Ivan Colombia Lobos is absent.
Do we have anything on items 19, 20, and 21?
Make a motion to delete.
Second.
Rene Rodriguez?
Aye.
Cesar Nevares?
Yes.
Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
Aye.
And Ivan Colombia Lobos is absent.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Rene Rodriguez?
Aye.
Cesar Nevares?
Yes.
Ralph Duran?
Yes.
Victor Perez?
Aye.
And Ivan Colombia Lobos is absent.
Meeting adjourned, 7:41.